Dan Graziano wrote about this the other day, and it caught my attention yesterday. Jimmy Garoppolo's total QBR over the last 2 weeks is 76.8, which is third best in the league over that time. Third best QBR over the past 2 weeks. Then he adds, pay no attention to the fact that the two guys ahead of him are Jalen Hurts and Geno Smith. Okay. See, I can't pay no attention to that fact, first of all. Secondly, cool. That's one thing that tells us how a quarterback's playing, right? Here's the problem for QBR truthers when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, if there are any. A QBR of 76.8 doesn't equate to the same amount of wins on every team. Like, you just can't take 76.8 QBR, put it on any team, and have that equate to some record. Who your team is matters too. And this team needs a quarterback that can make more plays for them than 76.8 QBR. That doesn't tell the whole story here.
Did he really write pay no attention? Like, no, you can't pay no attention.
He did write that.
I didn't see that until you brought it to my attention, but I did see Field Yates, so it made sense. He tweeted a couple days ago the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy over the past 2 weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo. And I was just thinking as you were talking about that, that is a little skewed because what happened the last couple weeks? A lot of underdogs have won games. A lot of the Bills have been terrible. Mahomes has been terrible. Tom Brady had a bye week. Russell Wilson's been injured. Aaron Rodgers missed the game with a positive test.
Stafford was bad.
Yeah, Stafford had the worst game of the season.
The quarterbacks people pick in fantasy.
Yeah, and the QBR guys, like the best players in the league, were either terrible, bye weeks, had COVID. I mean, fucking, what are we talking about here? Because I would say, hey, if the last 2 weeks Jimmy had thrown 7 total touchdowns, thrown for 680 yards, you'd be like, this guy's humming. That is not the case. Honestly, I know people are saying he's playing that good. I don't think he's playing that well. I really don't. Like, I think he's okay, meh. From a scouting standpoint, if I was just evaluating him, if I was like the Washington football team's West Coast scout, and they're like, hey, I know you live out there, keep a close eye on Jimmy. I'd be like, I would not trade anything of value for this guy. Even his completions are guys making miraculous catches, one-handed catches. He gets guys injured at a rapid rate. Like, yeah, relative to earlier in the season, is he playing better? I guess, but I don't come away very impressed with Jimmy Garoppolo. Again, he's 30 years old. He's an 8-9 year veteran. Like, the bar's relatively high.
I think he's playing like he plays when it's not going poorly. Like, he can play worse. I think in terms of over a period of time, he doesn't play much better. He can't have a game or two where he's really good.
But do you agree with the skewed numbers, given that all those guys either played bad or were missing games?
Yes.
So it's like he outplayed Mahomes.
Yes, but,
I mean, Mahomes' worst 2-game stretch of his career?
Yes.
What about Tom Brady? He outplayed Tom Brady. You mean he was on a bye week? He didn't play. What about Rodgers? Yeah, he was fucking at home, hanging with
Russ.
Rogan. What are we talking? Russ has had a splint on his finger for a month.
Kyler
can't even move. Didn't play a game. I forgot about him. Like, it is.
Carr didn't play well last week.
Worst game of the season. So it's very, very
Mahomes
skewed.
throwing picks.
This is where numbers can lie, right? Because if you put that same stretch, those 2 games that for Jimmy were 2 good games, and compare them to week 2 and 3 of just quarterbacks around the league, I guarantee you couldn't write that. Or Fields wouldn't be able to tweet that.
Yeah, like, what is normally the best QBR over a 2-week span?
Or top fantasy quarterbacks.
Yeah. But even if we don't compare him, I do think just watching him that
Lamar had a bye 2 weeks ago.
He's been good for Jimmy. Like, I think he's been solid for what he is. But again, this is not the 2019 roster. This is not the 2019 defense. It's not the they've been struggling to find the 2019 run, right? Like the running back situation. So they need a different player than the quarterback they had for them at 20. They need a different quarterback than they wouldn't have in 2019.
That's why they drafted the guy.
That's why they drafted the guy. Now, does that mean Trey Lance should start against the Rams on Monday night? Well, that's tough. This is why we've been talking about him for a couple of weeks, because would you start, we all agree Trey Lance should play, would you start him this week against the Rams?
As someone who has pounded the table that you gain experience and improve through playing, right now I would not do it just because it's a standalone game. If it went really poorly, which it could, their defense is really good, and he threw a couple picks, the way it goes, everyone would be shitting on him. And it's not worth the risk. I'd start him a 10 a.m. game, i.e. next week. But the problem is if Jimmy somehow the team wins, they're not going to like bench Jimmy Garoppolo.
Look, no, they wouldn't.
I would try to mix him in a couple plays at least.
I would too. And again, Garoppolo has been hurt before. Who knows? Maybe that situation arises and he just ends up playing.
Jimmy could go down at any moment, yeah.
But I know this, that what we see every week is a team that needs its quarterback to help them overcome the shortcomings that they have. I've railed again. I've said it multiple times, so I don't want to repeat myself, but the fumbles. We've had injuries. You've had defense that hasn't been able to get consistent stops or takeaways. On and on and on and on and on. Part of Trey Lance is he does stuff where the numbers don't tell you that, these particular numbers at least don't tell you how it limits your team when you get into a game where you really have to go score or make plays. And the fact is the Niners played the Bears and Colt McCoy, and Colt played really well, and the Cardinals were rolling. But that's a different animal, I think, than what they're about to get here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a scary spot.
I don't want to hear I don't want to hear it, not because I'm denying that Jimmy's playing well, but because I think what this team needs is something different than what Jimmy Garoppolo is when he's playing well.
But I think we all agree. I'd say the universal might be strong, but I would say the common theme with most people you would talk about, like we know what we've seen from this, even the last couple games. Like, meh. I mean, he had a couple touchdowns last week. Well, a couple of them were running, right? We're just like the little zone read where they let him keep
made some plays against the Bears. Again, I don't think my take is not that he sucks, and it has not been that.
But no one's saying that. But let's not.
Yeah, okay.
But I think people are kind of writing like, he's been a star these last couple weeks. Now he's been like an average.
I think he's been the same. He has been what you could reasonably hope that he would be.
But all completions to me are just not the same. Like George Kittle putting his arm up in the air, tipping it to himself, or Brandon Ayuk jumping like he's Gary Payton Jr. or the second, whichever one he is, and catching the ball is just like it's not the same as a completion that hits a guy in the numbers, right? That Brandon Ayuk catch that he had where he fumbled was a miraculous catch.
Incredible.
The DB, you don't often see the DB stop, go just bucket Willie Mays ready to just catch it in his stomach. Like the DB thought the ball was coming right to him. He just stopped. Because usually when that happens, it goes right to the DB. He can just see the trajectory of the ball. Every ball Jimmy throws is just sky high. I don't understand why it's just everything sky high. I get occasional. It just happens, right? It used to happen to Derek a lot. Derek's really done a better job of he used to miss a lot of high. Like, why are you missing high, Jimmy? What's going on here? Lower the trajectory?
It's been. I mean, I know.
It's extremely high, too. It's not like, it's like hitting him in the helmet instead of the numbers. It's way above the helmet.
Yeah, it's guys being exposed is what happens.
I think they'd have a lot
getting
more
exposed.
I think they would have a lot more carnage if they were playing like in 98.
I went back and watched some what was it? It was what game was it? It was a Patriots, an old Brady game. I'm trying to remember what team Brian Cox was in this.
The Jets
highlight. I didn't think it was a Jets game. I didn't think it was. I watched the Chargers and I watched the Saints. Was Brian Cox on either one of those teams?
I don't know. I feel like he was on a Dolphins and a Jet.
Yeah, that's all I can think of too. But anyway, some of these highlights, people are just getting murdered, and nothing happens. Again, I'm not advocating for it, but and who else do you play? Who else?
Well, what's funny is I bring up Brian Cox. It's the dad from Succession.
That's the actor, or that's his name in the show?
How do you spell Brian Cox's last name?
Cox.
Yeah.
Bryan though, I think. I think it's Bryan.
Yeah, you're right. So Brian Cox, he played for the Dolphins from 91 to 95.
Yeah.
He played from the Bears 96 to 97, the Jets 98 to 2000, played on the Pats in Brady's year.
That's why I saw him.
And then he played on the Saints in 02.
Okay. But it was Brady's rookie year I was watching. I watched Brady's debut against the Saints.
He was on their team.
He was on the team.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Because
Brady.
he had the big neck roll thing.
Brady,
right?
yeah, Brady, the Saints, and then and then his Charger game, which was his first comeback, his first fourth quarter comeback. And they won the game in OT. And actually in the Saints game, they get a PI late. Alex Molden committed a pass interference, the cornerback. Only relevant because his son, Elijah, plays for the Titans. How many fathers and sons have played against Tom Brady? Has that happened? I don't know, but Bucks don't have I checked, the Bucks don't have the Titans on their schedule this year, but they could play. How cool is that?
I bet it's happened a few times.
It has to have, right?
Yeah,
I don't know who, but
I saw they asked Belichick about Asante Samuel Jr. because they just played the Chargers a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "God, that makes me feel old." I mean, Asante, like Bill was 55 when Asante was starting for him, right?
Yeah.